Hello everybody. And so the 2020-21 season starts in this weirdest of times with a home match against Newcastle United. Kick-off this Saturday is now 8 p.m, with the powers that be now agreeing to televise all matches live in September. Travel news is, of course, largely irrelevant. No doubt wherever you live there will be some form of engineering works going on, so if you're not going to the match by train, be prepared to not use a replacement bus for all or part of your non-journey. Or not, as the case may be. So the Geordies then. Well, when we last met, I was looking forward to the time when I'd be able to open one of these without having to explain to some of the visiting support that the audio footprint of Bow Bells does not quite extend to High Wycombe, thus depriving Mike Ashley of the Cockney status they seemed so willing to assign to him. Back then, everything had been signed, sealed, and all but delivered on the transfer of ownership to Saudi interests, only for the fit and proper people to have doubts about the whole thing. The involvement of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund was key to the matter. The PIF, essentially the vehicle through which the Saudi royal family invests all those oil billions, is run by the country's ruling leader, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This is the chap who accepted responsibility for the brutal assassination of regime-critical journalist Jamal Khashoggi, describing it as a mistake. So that's okay then. However, it would appear that the authorities at this end were more concerned at the Saudis' involvement in TV piracy over football broadcasting rights. If that is the case, it shows a rather depressing sense of priorities on the part of the powers that be at this end. Meanwhile, if your lights just dimmed, it was probably Manchester City's owners just turning up the voltage in their interrogation rooms. Not that anyone should shed a tear for Ashley that the deal didn't go through. He's believed to be sitting on a chunky, non-returnable deposit from the Saudis of between £9 and £17 million, depending on your source, which is a decent business model by any standards. There are new kids on the block as far as the sale goes. A Far Eastern outfit calling themselves Bellagraph Nova, which sounds like the name of a Whitley Bay guest house, have been making overtures in that direction, so watch this space, etc. On the footballing front, Daisy, the full-time, flexibly furloughed and socially bubbled personal assistant with a beautiful smile, informs me that the current window has seen 4 arrivals so far at the time of writing. This may come as a surprise to some of you who may have previously been unaware that the transfer market operates in both directions. Towards the end of last season, midfielder Jimi Hendrick eschewed the opportunity to play in Burnley's last few matches, electing instead to put his feet up once the 30th of June contract expiry date had passed, thus ensuring that the subsequent free transfer up to Tyneside wasn't jeopardised by anything resembling an injury. Hendrick was an unused sub in Ireland's surprise 1-0 home defeat in the Nations League on Sunday to Finland. The second arrival was to bolster the options in goal, where the usual first choice, Martin Dubravka, has a long-term ankle-heel injury, and veteran Rob Elliott was released. 28-year-old Mark Gillespie arrived on another free from Hearts, crossing the border from Tynecastle to Tyneside. The signing makes Gillespie the Geordie David Martin, returning as he is to the club where he started out his youth career, though as far as I'm aware he hasn't got an ex-player dad sitting in the stands awaiting a hug for his first clean sheet. The third new boy is hot off the press insofar as when I started writing this, the deal to sign Bournemouth striker Callum Wilson was still at the fee-agreed personal terms under discussion stage. Daisy informs me that a fee of £20 million has been reported for the player, who's one of those players who has a habit of scoring against us, most memorably rescuing a point for the Cherries down at Dean Court with a goal that he punched in from an offside position. The signing is a bit of a kick in the face for those of us who thought, good, we've seen the last of him when Bournemouth went down last season. Even hotter off the press is the news that they've further swooped upon the rotting carcass of AFC Bournemouth to pick up Ryan Fraser. Like his fellow new signing Hendrick, Fraser declined the invitation to carry on playing after 30th of June, deciding that the chance of assisting in Bournemouth's relegation fight was an opportunity he was quite happy to pass on, given the possibility of injury. As a free agent, he's arrived without a fee. The new signings will soften the blow of a somewhat lengthy injury list. Apart from the aforementioned Dubravka, Shah, shoulder, Dummett, hamstring, Clark, ankle, and Gale, knee, are all destined to miss this one, whilst Ritchie, unspecified knock, and Longstaff M, brackets, quadriceps strain, close brackets, are on the in with a chance but not much of one camp. Enough about them, let us move on to the wild and wacky world of association football. Well, the messed up situation that the world finds itself in means that the usual calendar is completely screwed. One of the benefits of this is that we're spared the usual madness whereby an international break turns up after only a couple of games of the league season, and they've gotten the first break out of the way before the season even kicks up, thereby disrupting pre-season instead of the season itself. Of course, even when we eventually get back to normal, I suspect FIFA will start scheduling international breaks, so they start at half-time. On the international front, the trip to the country formerly known as Bijam was far from uneventful for the Three Lions, quite apart from the drama of 2 late penalties, which contrasted with the tedium of the preceding 90 minutes as England struggled to break down an obdurate Icelandic defence. We had the little matter of Messrs Foden and Greenwood being caught in the company of 2 young ladies in an unauthorised area of the team hotel. Presumably, the players had more in mind than signing autograph books for the young ladies concerned. Given the salaries afforded to professional footballers these days, the £1,300 fine from the Reykjavik Constabulary for stepping out with someone's dotter without a permit, or whatever the offence was, would be chicken feed. However, Foden in particular might be wishing that they'd banged him up for a while, what with an irate girlfriend and kid waiting for him back home. Do women still wait at the front door armed with rolling pins like they used to in cartoons? I guess Foden may be about to find out. Elsewhere, the so-called Big Six, which this year is 5 big clubs and Spurs, have apparently got the hump that the other 14 clubs voted against a continuation of the 7 subs rule that was in force over the lockdown. A spokesman was heard to be issuing muttering threats along the lines of, "We'll remember that vote." Clubs involved appear to believe that the whole league is run for their benefit, and to be fair, when the authorities bend over backwards to help them at every stage, it's easy to see why they might think that way. So let's move on to us. Oh dearie me, what is one to say? There we were, going with a vaguely uneventful pre-season when the management, who, remember, are on record as denying that they ever lurched from one PR disaster to another, managed to turn what were mild rumblings of discontent at what had been a quiet transfer window into an all-out civil war. The indoor had been disturbed only by the technical arrival of Souček, who really was already there. Then along came West Brom with the promise of £18 million plus add-ons in return for Diangana. It would appear that neither player nor manager were keen on the idea of him leaving, with the lad having featured quite a lot in pre-season. However, them upstairs had spoken, and much to everyone's dismay, Diangana was West Brom bound. At this point, all hell broke loose, with none other than Mark Noble going to tweet describing himself as gutted, angry and sad. Now, gutted and sad might have been dismissed as being part of a sentimental farewell to a much-liked teammate. However, throw an angry in there, and the resulting phrase is not so much the title of an unsuccessful Cole Porter song, more of a hand grenade. Other players waded in, with the comment from Wilshere to the effect that the player should go where he is respected being particularly cutting. The club's statement that the decision was difficult and the funds would be reinvested in other areas of the pitch was followed by the now traditional unrealistic bid for a player unlikely to make the move. At the time of writing, it seems that there are only 2 things stopping Tarkowski from joining us, from Burnley. Firstly, the suggested fee is little over half what Burnley are asking. Secondly, the player appears to be less than keen on the move. It's almost as if our owners believe that we've forgotten every other time they've done this. The Diangana move prompted a flurry of rumours of arguments between Moyes and the management, each rumour becoming wilder as it crawled its way along the various tentacles spreading out from the central hub of the internet. I particularly enjoyed the one where the various parties were all armed with laser cannon, with Moyes having taken a sniper's vantage point at the top of the helter-skelter outside the stadium. Whatever your viewpoint, it's clear that the club is not being run well at present. We were late with instalment payments on the Haller transfer, and rumours suggest that these are still unpaid. And it's a sobering thought that Newcastle have signed more players in the time it's taken me to write this article than we are likely to have bought in all summer, and that's even if you include Souček. Regular readers will know that I don't hang too much significance to pre-season friendlies. Embarrassing as the Betway Cup defeat to Bournemouth was, many of the goals came through holes that would have been plugged by Rice or Souček. What the match did highlight, though, was our paucity of resources, to the effect that, even more so than usual this season, we'll be watching every international break through our fingers from behind the sofa, lest one of our players get injured. The current position with injuries is that we're in the opposition where we currently have one player who may be missing, not because he's injured or ill, but because he knows somebody who's injured or ill. The aforementioned Souček is currently trying to clarify his quarantine position, having been in contact with a member of the Czech backroom staff who tested positive for COVID-19. Prediction? Well, this one will be all about the mood of each squad. Up to this week, they had a fairly depressing summer. They too let in 5 in a 5-1 defeat to Borough, whilst last weekend's 1-0 defeat to Stoke was scarcely more cheerful. On the other hand, the arrival of Wilson and Fraser, and please congratulate me for getting this far without mentioning Dad's Army, will have given them a boost. Our mood, on the other hand, will be akin to someone being given a brand new 60-inch UHD TV, only to discover that the only programme it will pick up is Mrs. Brown's Boys. So, with a heavy heart, and I honestly hope I'm very wrong, but bearing in mind there'll be a whole £2.50 at stake, that being the savings from my eating out to help out, I can only go for a home defeat. So I shall be wending my way down to Winston's the Turf Accountant and placing that whole £2.50 on a 2-1 win to the visitors. Let's hope I'm wrong, eh? Enjoy the game.